Alrighty, well, Taylor, I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. Focus is a series of, I want to say, interview style podcasts, right? Because of the fact that I think that people like yourselves bring a lot of value to the table in terms of photography, specifically wedding photography. And I wanted to sort of interview some of my favorite photographers from all around the world, and just essentially people I look up to, in the sense that I extrapolate a lot of guidance and a lot of motivation and a lot of inspiration from folks like yourselves. And it means the world to me that you'd take time out of your busy schedule to go ahead and impart a little bit of knowledge and have some fun with me, with somebody that you normally wouldn't even meet. So I'm happy I reached out. And in today's pilot episode, we're going to talk about a little bit about you, where you, how you all got started, what basically entails Taylor Jackson photography, and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So having said that, I wanted to put together some rapid fire questions, essentially to, like I said earlier, get the blood flowing and have people that normally wouldn't know about you get to know you a little bit better on a personal note, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty. Sound good?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot you some rapid fire questions. It could be one word, one phrase, one sentence, but essentially I would love for you to sort of share with me the first thing that comes to mind. You ready? Alrighty. So best vacation spot of all time is?
Japan.
Japan. Nice. Okay. If I could eat one meal right now, it would be?
It used to be pizza, but now I have a gluten thing, so I don't know anymore. Gluten-free pizza?
Maybe that works. What is your favorite music artist of all time?
Of all time? Oh, that's hard. Of now, I'm going to say Boy Genius, which consists of 3 of my favorite musicians.
Got it. Who would play you in a movie about yourself?
Hopefully me, because I'd like that paycheck as well as the rights to licensing my essence or whatever that would be.
There you go. Cats, dogs, or pet free?
We have one of each, but we like the dog better.
Okay. I'll promise to stay quiet on that. What's your all-time favorite picture taken by you, of course?
I don't know. Something from Japan, probably from one of my first trips to Japan, I would think.
Okay. Is it by any chance on your Instagram? Maybe I can plug it in here.
It might be. I'll find you one. I'll find you one that I enjoy.
Sounds good. Of all things, why photography?
I like to have a purpose to be places. And when I was getting started, I felt, I don't know, I wanted to go to concerts and see bands, but I wanted a thing to do and to give value. So I think that's how that all happened.
Gotcha. Okay. This is a fun one. What does Lindsay love the most about you?
I don't know. Not my cooking. I'll say not my cooking.
Okay, we can circle back to that one. How many weddings are you shooting for this year?
I think I have like 35, but it's a weird year. It's a very strange and unusual year.
Okay. Would you say that's because of your neck of the woods or something other than factors?
I don't know. I think we saw out of kind of 2020, 2021, it's just been like a weird wave of weddings. So I feel like this is kind of a weird, almost recovery year in the industry. At least that seems what's going on right here. And we'll see what that means for next year. Because next year I almost have as many as this year already. So.
Okay. Well, good for you. And last but not least, if it wasn't for Canada, I would probably live in?
Either Tokyo or South Island, New Zealand.
Okay. So you have an inclination to Japan, I see.
Yeah.
It's popped up in 3 of these questions. Okay, sounds good. So let's just get into the nitty gritty because I want to be respectful of your time. So tell us a little bit of Hawaii. Let's start with that. How was Hawaii?
It was good. Yeah, so we did like a portfolio building workshop series that's been kind of touring around a little bit, and we brought it to Hawaii, and it was a nice time. We got good weather, which is always the most stressful unknown about doing any sort of kind of workshop series. So I'm very happy that all worked out. People came from all over the world, and we took some nice pictures, and And now the tour of that workshop series is going to Banff in September. So it's fun. Banff is more home for us. It's a bit easier to run an event in Canada than it is to run an event in different countries. So but it's fun.
I can imagine. Yeah, I've only seen Banff in pictures, and it's actually one of the destinations I have in my bucket list. I'll be turning 40 here in June, and I've been admittedly trying to teach myself a German on Duolingo for the better part of like 2 months, and so I'm thinking that could actually take a back seat to something like Canada. So who knows? Maybe we'll meet each other in Banff and take one of those bucket shot Peter McKinnon style pictures together. That would be fun. Okay, so my first real question is, from blooming onions to full-time photography, how long did you sit on that fence, and what prompted you to take the plunge? In other words, what was the deciding factor in your equation, if you will?
I think I was pretty fortunate with my transition, because I'm going to say like maybe I began weddings when I was like maybe 19. But it was a slow start. So I was also working, as you mentioned, that an Outback Steakhouse cooking. I started cooking, or I started as a busser, and then I cooked blooming onions for a while, and then I did other kitchen stuff. And then when I turned 18, I started serving. And the benefit of having a job like that is it's pretty customizable to your schedule. I was also like kind of in the age range where I could survive on pretty limited money, that I didn't need a lot for rent. I didn't need a lot for food. I hadn't bought a car. So the transition was probably, I would say, maybe 3 years in total. But there was never a point where I was just like, I'm going to quit my job. I would stay on as like, I would come in on Sundays, and my schedule would just like go down from like, oh, I'm available 7 days a week to I'm available 5 days a week to, hey, next month I'm available 3 days a week, and 2. And then kind of 1 as just kind of a backup that I stayed on the schedule in case someone needed a shift covered. Because I did enjoy kind of the going into a workplace. It's like a little isolating being a photographer, just working on your own. You don't really have anyone to bounce ideas off of. And it's nice to have a little bit of kind of a workplace. So I kept it around a while for that. And I think that I probably actually I was at Outback Steakhouse for like 8 years. And I think I probably actually needed the job for about 4 of those years. So after year 4, I feel like I was probably fine on my own, but I still wanted that social aspect of my life. So I kind of just stuck around because of that, which is, I don't know, that's weird or normal, but I don't know, it seemed was right at the time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. The reason why I wanted to start off that line of questioning is because that story hit home for me. It pressed buttons because I too was in the casual dining realm. I started at Chili's, and then I moved my way up to bartender and managers at Applebee's. And so what I wanted to do is sort of feel simpatico with you in the sense that we kind of got started in. With that backstory and made our way into, hanging out with cameras for the first time. So that's pretty cool. It means a lot to me that you'd share that. Another question, and this is just like a buffet of questions because we have a limited time. So you've been in this industry for, I think, more than 15 years now, and you have amassed quite a bit of knowledge that you now impart on your website. Tell us a little bit about your courses, and I think that it's safe to say you'd be hard pressed not to share like the biggest takeaway that you would probably give photographers if they were to visit you. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I started, I guess to bring it back even further, when I was first getting into weddings, my biggest unknown was that I had just never been to a wedding. So I didn't know what the workflow looked like, which is kind of weird to be like, I want to be a wedding photographer. I've never been to a wedding. But Jerry Jonas was one of the first guys to just kind of start showing behind the scenes of wedding days. And I learned a lot from that. I do a lot of things very different from what Jerry would do. And when I got to a point that I was photographing a lot of weddings, I just kind of wanted to bring a little bit of that back to the community that was getting started. So that was kind of what initiated the YouTube thing. And that kind of grew into a more premium content over on the courses website. It's pretty much just everything that I would usually do in terms of like a daily workshop, or if you came to our studio and you sat there for a day or two, it's kind of all of those, but then also separated into just a variety of other courses. So from things from like elopements and micro weddings to doing hybrid photo video coverage to just general marketing. It's kind of all of that. And there's a lot of stuff up there. I think if I could give one kind of takeaway or one big thing that I think has helped the most people, or at least what echoes back to me, it's when people start doing hybrid photo video coverage. Once the unknown of it kind of disappears, so you photograph a few weddings, and then at some point you kind of make the switch to start doing some video clips, and at some point you're making hybrid like highlight films while also doing your regular photography coverage. And I would say that has had the biggest impact on a wide variety of people all around the world, in terms of making their businesses go from like doing pretty good or maybe just booking a couple of weddings into a place that they're now comfortably working for themselves and supporting their families. So that's been really cool. So if there's one thing that I would maybe recommend, and you're also kind of future-proofing yourself as well, against what might happen to the future of the industry. No one knows. And when you learn video skills, all of a sudden you can do commercial jobs. Your skills just span so much more. So you're a lot more versatile as a photographer and video creator.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I do recall seeing a recent video about how you can take your business to the next level by doing hybrid coverage. I may go ahead and link it down below, as well as the Taylor Jackson courses. So you definitely want to check that out. So let's jump ship to AI, right? Artificial intelligence is here to stay, whether folks like it or not. So my question to you in that regard would be, does it scare you in a good way, or does it keep you up at night? Like, where do you stand on AI?
I think if you're aware of kind of what's happening, you're at least aware of what could potentially happen, it's a little bit less stressful. That at least you have a little bit of lead time. Whereas I feel like if this was all happening behind closed doors and it was only for a small community of individuals on the internet, it would be a little bit more fearful, I would say. But having pretty open visibility to kind of what's happening week by week, I would say it's not the worst. In terms of AI editing, I would say that's helped me out substantially. It's been, I guess, the biggest major workflow change to my wedding photography since I was doing, since I went from like editing every single image individually in Photoshop to downloading Lightroom in 2009 or whenever that came out. That was a big workflow change. I would say that this is an equal to that workflow change. When it comes to actually images and generating images, I think that we're somewhat protected as wedding photographers for quite some time, I would say. And it'll be interesting where the tolerance is for people on the AI versus actually having a real life wedding photographer there. There will be some balance. Some couples maybe won't even hire a wedding photographer. They'll just get somebody to come in with an iPhone, shoot a few photos, and then like enhance them in AI, and that might be fine for them. It'll all, I guess, come down to the point of what humans prefer in terms of kind of an idealistic version of their wedding day that's not actually true to the day, or if they want actual photojournalism and something true. So I guess we'll all find out together.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way towards AI. It definitely helped me, especially in my post-editing workflow, as you mentioned. But the reason I specifically brought this question up is because of the fact that I was actually given access to something like Firefly from Adobe. Again, not sponsored. We're just throwing stuff out there. And I've seen the craziness that ensues from Midjourney. And fun fact, I typed in black and white portrait of a Latino woman in a photography studio. And what came out is the most mind-blowing rendering I have ever seen. I actually tweeted about it, and one of my followers said, that looks exactly like my mom. And it's just mind-bending how accurate and perfectly shaped. Like her eyes were symmetrical, like the nose was nice and sharp. It's just like mind-blowing what AI can do. And so I agree with the fact that I believe, you can't really substitute couples with AI. So, wedding photographers like you and I are pretty safe for now, I would say. But it's crazy at what this artificial intelligence can do. So again, jumping this craziness out of all the realms within photography, why did you land on weddings, and to what do you attribute your continued success in this niche?
I would say the continued success is just it's kind of what I believe made me successful in the first place. And it was the fact that I just started building my own portfolio, and then I've just never really stopped that. That yes, I take obviously paid work, and that impacts my portfolio, and I show images from that. But beyond that, I'm really making a conscious effort to go out and to create what I want to exist and what I want to be paid to be shooting. Um, I think that that also comes down to the fun aspect of it as well, that it's just kind of an enjoyable thing for me to get to go out and do the fun stuff that I find interesting. I think that's one of the driving forces that kind of got me into the industry, that I saw that wedding photography could be kind of whatever I wanted it to be, in the sense that I could kind of live wherever. If I wanted to go completely location independent and do destinations only, that would be an option. Or if I just wanted to work locally, it would be great. If I wanted to do a volume based business where I shoot 190 weddings a year as a studio with 5 associate shooters, you can do that. If you want to take 20 on your own and do very high end weddings, that's also a business avenue. So I just enjoyed the customization of the career and the fact that they could take you to some pretty cool places if you wanted to allow those as opportunities. And fortunately, I guess a bunch of years into this, even like I'm going to say 5 years into it, I was in a place that I was pretty happy that I was getting paid to travel, and I was getting paid to see the places that I wanted to pay to go see. So I would say within 5, 6, 7 years, I was like very, very happy that I had made a career in wedding photography.
Okay. So I agree with the fact that it does allow for flexibility, and there's this whole notion of destination weddings. Like for those of you, just now tuning in, I am in Puerto Rico, and so most of my business is destination wedding photography. But fact of the matter is, I actually got into wedding photography because I just, and you might be, in tune with this as well, is the fact that I get a lot more joy and gratification from shooting somebody's love story and getting to know them on a personal level than a can of Coke. You know what I'm saying? Or, as pleasing as some landscapes are, I guess we built cameras for ourselves, right? To document life itself. And so there's just something about wedding photography to me and being part of somebody's story. And it makes me feel special and as an artist, right? And quote unquote, right? And so that to me is, I guess, my reason why I went into wedding photography. And I'm sure you may have not mentioned it, but that's definitely something that, fills you with joy, and the fact that you can share your art with people, commemorate that. So again, shifting gears. Ever since your journey on YouTube, I've seen you review gear from various different brands. I think you're now shooting on Sony. Please correct me if I'm wrong. What's the line of reasoning behind jumping ship to different companies? And if someone were to put a gun to your head and say you can only stick to one ecosystem for the rest of your career, which one would that be and why?
Well, the fortunate thing is that they're all good now. That I have I don't know, every brand has kind of minimized the issues that they had, especially when first switching over to mirrorless. There were some challenges, and I would say that all brands are kind of equal playing field right now. They all have kind of their place in the market, and their pro lines are all amazing, and they all usually have one or two sub pro line cameras that are also quite good. I don't know, as of right now. So I'm the happiest with the Tamron 35 to 150 lens, and right now that only comes for Sony. So I don't know if that makes me a Sony shooter, but it's kind of that's the reasoning, I guess, that I've stuck with it for so long. Prior to that, I was on Canon. I love the R6. My wife Lindsay shoots an R6 II now, and that's great. My R3 I sold because the R6 II came out and it did everything the R3 did, which was confusing, but for less money and for a smaller body. So yeah, I don't know. And then the Nikon Z8 came out a couple of days ago, and it's also phenomenal. So I guess there's a bunch of different avenues, and for myself is kind of the brands consider me more as a journalist in the space rather than just a photographer. So that's why I do reviews on a variety of different lenses and cameras kind of all across the board. But for me, from a teaching space, Nikon is and always has been the best in the mirrorless world, because I can do a very easy screen record of everything my EVF or my LCD is seeing. And that's not something I can do it with Fuji, but it's a little clunky. But Canon and Sony, I can't do that so easily. So from an educational teaching standpoint, Nikon is going to be a very interesting thing for me to be using, I think, over this year, which is cool because they were the latest to the mirrorless game, and they caught up with the Z9 for sure, but it was expensive and large. And now with the new Z8, it's I don't know, pretty level playing field.
Yeah, yeah, I agree as well. I've been a Canon shooter my entire photography career. I don't see myself jumping ship, but I made a fun video recently about how, and I think you reviewed it as well. If I were to ever jump ship to somebody else and just cheat on Canon, it would not just be Sony, but the A7R5. I think that thing is a beast, and it extrapolates a lot from the big brother, the A1, I believe. And so if I were to, cheat on Canon, it's definitely with one of that body. So yeah, it's a wonderful camera. Okay. So speaking of cameras, you've previously admitted to being comfortable behind the camera, but not necessarily in front of it, which is surprising to me because you're now here with me. But I love how you sometimes create, comic relief to somehow ease your own tension. How would you describe your growth on a personal level, and what advice would you give to aspiring creators like ourselves to not shy away from the camera?
Yeah, I don't know. I've always been just uncomfortable in front of cameras. I find that the easiest thing for me is when I can set it up myself, when I know I have final edit, when I know I have at least enough of a script or an outline to at least do a pretty good job of what I think I want to be doing. That's helped me the best. Also, not having anyone else in the room was also very important for me for a very long time. I can, like, if we're doing a professional thing now, I think I've made like thousands and thousands of hours of video content now, so I'm a little bit better. But for the most part, if I'm out there, I can do the professional thing for like a little bit to do like a gear review if I have to work with other people, or sometimes there's like a brand liaison or somebody there like during a shoot. I can make that happen now. But for a long time, that was like an impossibility. So yeah, I would say just kind of find the things that work for you, and get as comfortable as you can in them. I think that it is important to get your face in front of the screen, and to actually, especially if you want to be running like a wedding photography business, that the more the AI tools are going to kind of level the playing field a little bit here, and that cameras are so good and lenses are so good that you can pretty much get any current camera, put an 85 or 50 on it, and go find good light and be taking pretty good photos and editing through Imagine. Like everything's going to look pretty professional pretty quick. So rather than a 3-year learning curve, maybe you're now a 6 to 8 month learning curve to get into the professional space. So I think with that, I think it's important to really kind of double down on your personal brand. And that probably means, at least in my opinion, getting in front of the camera a little bit more and developing a little bit of a personality, or a media, even if it's not your 100% real personality, just something that clients and couples can attach onto and just know whether they like you or not. Before coming to your website.
Yes, well said. I think you'd hit the nail on the head when you said, and you talked about branding, how, at the end of the day, we're essentially one-man gangs, and we do everything from like our own marketing to our own advertising, shooting, editing, delivering, client relation services and stuff like that. So I think that, by creating things like YouTube channels, which you're very successful at, by the way, I love it. I think that we can definitely put a face and a personality to what we represent. And I think that you do that quite better than a lot of people out there. So kudos to that. So Taylor, I'm of the understanding that you are partly invested in Focal, and it's no surprise to anyone. What prompted the idea behind the company, and what's the vision for the future?
Yeah, the company ended up in my email box. So they were a company before me, and we basically just joined forces a little bit last December, January 2021. Around that time, they kind of had built the company that I would have wanted to build, had I had the time and how to have developers. I'm not really in the computer programming space anymore. So it was nice that they kind of already built what I wanted to exist. And then they didn't really have, Lachlan, the CEO, isn't really, he's not in the photography industry. So the idea was basically that like I could be the person that's kind of industry facing, and they could work on product and build a team and everything. And it's worked out very well. Right now, I guess we do a lot of things, and it's a bit confusing, but we're essentially kind of an all-in-one solution now for if you want to build your website, you can build it with our AI generator. So you pretty much throw like 15, 20 images that you've taken at it, and it will build you a beautiful website. It'll write your about me and all kinds of content. And we also have an AI blogging assistant as well that you can just type a few sentences about a wedding, and it'll build you this like beautiful SEO rich post. And that's kind of, I would say, I didn't even know that was coming. And then maybe 6 months ago, we were like, hey, this could be a thing we could do. And then all of a sudden it exists and it's amazing. So that's kind of any photographer's front facing thing into the world or your storefront. And then it also comes with a booking system as well on the back end. So contracts and payments and galleries and everything. So it's kind of that all-in-one solution, which is a bit confusing to try to summarize in one sentence, but and then we also run events.
So a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So if you're interested and you've been on the fence about getting your own website, I'm going to go ahead and link Focal down in the description below. So definitely check it out. All-in-one solution, CRM, website, you name it. It's automated. It's wonderful. Check out Focal. One of my main goals, Taylor, in life is to be happy doing what I love. And my question to you then would be, what about photography brings you joy? And what would you say is the reason why it comes naturally to you?
I think that can go in a variety of different directions. I think from a happiness standpoint, I like the unique and interesting opportunities that it unlocks. Not photography only, also video. That if you do if you want to do a documentary about anything in your local area, you can just start and you can just reach out to all the people that would benefit, and everyone's going to be stoked to talk to you. I think that's really cool. From a wedding photography standpoint, I really, really love that you get to create something that is immediately valuable for people and something that's going to be valuable and passed down from generation to generation. I think that's really powerful and something that not a lot of industries can really create. So I'm a huge fan of that. And then I guess from just a life happiness perspective as well, that yes, it could definitely consume all of your time. If you wanted to put 200 hours a week into your photography and video business, you could, and it would absorb it all and you would do well. But you can also kind of go in seasons where you work really hard for a couple of months and then you take a couple of months at a bit of a slower pace. So I really like how you can kind of play with that. And that takes years and years and years to figure out the flow of, because for the first few years, it's a struggle to get by. It's an oversaturated industry. You got to carve out your little spot and who you are and make sure you have clients coming in. And it's hard to book off a month when a couple is like, hey, we'd like to give you money for a day. And you're like, that's a lot of money for a day, but how do I say no to that? The first few years, you probably don't. Eventually though, you start to kind of find your pace and find what makes you happy and know that even if you're turning away the money short term, that it's going to increase your life happiness a lot more by having that month off and being able to work on a personal project or to travel or to go to the cottage with your family or whatever it is. So I really like the customizability of it, as well as the unique experiences and creating something that's valuable for either couples or if you're working with businesses or working with small businesses. Like I've seen little promotional videos that we've done here, like just absolutely make restaurants go nuts for the first like 3 months they've been opened. And it's cool to be able to have that impact on like my friends' businesses as well. So I think there's a lot of good things going for it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that mankind's invention of the camera is just otherworldly, and it's a shame I got my start late. That's a bug that sort of hit me really late in life, and I wish I would have done it sooner. Like before this, I was working for the federal government here in the States, and so I was miserable behind their computers, and I loved who I am behind a camera and in front of my own computers. Obviously, 90% of what we do is editing, but yeah, man, I'm totally there with you in the sense that if I can be in tune with who I am and what I do every day for a living, and put food on the table, doing what I love, then it's just like a no-brainer. And I admittedly, I sat on that fence for so long because of, the whole work-life balance. Like, should I keep doing this and stability and laughing all the way to the bank, or take a risk on myself and do, things that fill me with joy? So, man, I wholeheartedly appreciate, your responses today, and for you to take time out of your busy schedule. It means the absolute world to me. And, for everybody that's been, watching my channel, it's safe to say that I've looked up you for guidance. I bought your contract is actually a Taylor Jackson contract. I bought that off of your website. I of course tweaked it to be a Puerto Rican contract or whatever. But yeah, man, I've looked up you for quite some time, and I wanted you to be the pilot episode in this little project that I have going on. And so. Again, I thank you. I'm going to go ahead and have you take the floor and sort of let us know where we can follow you, your YouTube channel, your social media, of course, your website, and anything that you definitely want to promote. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy this worked out. And I'm Taylor Jackson. I am at Taylor Jackson on Instagram. And you can find me on YouTube if you just search Taylor Jackson photo, or Taylor Jackson will probably pop up as well. And those would be kind of the two main spots, I would say. So, yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, guys. Well, that is where I'm going to leave it. Thank you again to Taylor Jackson for joining us in this pilot episode of Focused. A couple of interviews that I will be doing with my favorite photographers. And again, if you do not recall, I posted about this on my community page, and it was a resounding yes. So hopefully you're going to like this set of questions and interviews that I have for your favorite photographers from all around the world. And fun fact, my very next guest is going to be a Canon Explorer of Light. That is where I'm going to leave it. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to everything about Taylor, from his YouTube channel to his Instagram account and so on and so forth. Make sure to check out Focal as well as TaylorJacksonPhoto.com. I will see you in the next episode.